Welcome to this special presentation. Today we are going to be taking a look at the latest novel by Misa and Brehm called The Grace Between the Scars. Thanks for watching and enjoy the show. We all have secrets, but some carry a heavier price than others. Join us for an exclusive sneak peek into The Grace Between the Scars by Misa and Brehm. Discover what happens when a life built on clever excuses finally shatters, and find out if there's any grace to be found in the wreckage. Let's get into it.
Chapter 1: The End of the Road. The blue and red strobes didn't just flash. They sliced through the darkness of the cabin, reflecting off the rearview mirror with a rhythmic, pulsing judgment. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic, trapped bird, as the high-pitched chirp of the siren tore through the heavy silence of the Georgia backroad. Not now, please God, not like this. I looked down at the passenger seat, at the choices I'd made that were currently tucked away in the glove box, and realized the road had finally run out. There was no more running, no more hiding behind a clever smile or a quick excuse. As the gravel crunched under my tires and the patrol car came to a halt behind me, the world didn't just stop, it shattered. My hands shook as I lunged toward the glove box, the click of the latch sounding like a gunshot in the cramped space. I shoved the envelope deeper into the back, past the tattered manual and a handful of old napkins, my breath coming in jagged, shallow stabs. I just needed a second, one more second to make it disappear. But seconds were a luxury I'd already gambled away. A sudden, blinding beam of white light exploded against my side mirror, then flooded the interior of the car, washing out the red and blue strobes. I squinted, frozen half-turned in the seat, as the heavy thud-thud-thud of boots on gravel marched closer. Every step felt like a hammer driving a nail into the coffin of my freedom. Tap, tap, tap. The flashlight beam raked across the dashboard, pausing for a terrifying heartbeat on the slightly ajar glove box before settling directly on my eyes. Hands where I can see them. Now, the voice was a gravelly roar, cutting through the glass and the static of my own fear. I snapped my hands up, palms flat against the steering wheel, my fingers digging into the worn leather until they turned white. The officer didn't just stand there. He loomed, his silhouette a dark, jagged shadow against the blinding glare of his flashlight. He slapped the side of the car, a sharp metallic crack that made me jump, before the window began to roll down with a slow, agonizing hum. "What are you reaching for? You got something in that glove box you're in a hurry to hide." He didn't wait for an answer. He leaned in, the brim of his hat dipping into the light, eyes narrowed into predatory slits. The smell of cold air and old coffee flooded the car, clashing with the scent of my own panicked sweat. "No, sir," I managed to choke out, though my voice sounded thin like a frayed wire about to snap. "I was just looking for my registration." "Is that right?" He raked the light over the passenger seat again, the beam lingering on the corner of the envelope that was still peeking out from the glove box door. A slow, dangerous grin tugged at the corner of his mouth. "Because you look like someone who just realized they're at the end of a very long, very crooked road. Step out of the vehicle, now." The command wasn't a request. It was an ultimatum backed by the heavy weight of authority. I hesitated for a fraction of a second, my mind racing through the contents of that envelope, but the officer's hand moved instinctively toward his belt. The threat was unspoken but loud. "Keep your hands where I can see them," he barked, moving toward the rear of the door to give himself a tactical angle. I fumbled for the handle, my legs feeling like lead as I swung them out into the humid night air. The gravel crunched under my boots, a sound that usually meant coming home, but tonight it sounded like a trap snapping shut. As I stood, the officer didn't back off. He moved in closer, the heat radiating off the patrol car's engine mixing with the cold sweat chilling my spine. "Turn around, face the car, spread 'em." I obeyed, the rough metal of the roof biting into my palms as I leaned forward. This was it, the point of no return. I closed my eyes, the red and blue lights still pulsing behind my eyelids, and for the first time in years, a jagged, desperate prayer clawed its way up my throat. I watched through the side view mirror, my breath fogging the glass as the officer's shadow moved away from me and back toward the open passenger door. He didn't even bother with a pat-down yet. He knew exactly where the ghost was hiding. "Stay right there, don't even breathe," he muttered over his shoulder. The interior light of my car felt like a spotlight on a stage where I never wanted to perform. I watched, heart stopping, as his gloved hand reached into the cabin. He didn't fumble. He didn't search. He went straight for the glove box and pulled out the thick, cream-colored envelope. He held it up into the beam of his flashlight, the light turning the paper nearly translucent. Even from the outside, I could see the dark outline of what was inside. "Well, well," the officer said, his voice dropping into a low, terrifyingly calm tone. "This doesn't look much like a registration to me." He turned back toward me, the envelope flicking against his palm with a rhythmic thwack, thwack, thwack. "You want to tell me whose name is on the ledger inside this, or should we just let the judge figure it out?" I couldn't answer. My tongue felt like a piece of dry leather glued to the roof of my mouth. I watched in the mirror as the officer's expression shifted from a grin to a cold, professional mask. He didn't need my confession, he had the evidence. "Hands behind your back, do it now." The first click of the handcuffs was colder than I imagined. It wasn't just metal on skin, it was the sound of a door locking that I didn't have the key to. He ratcheted them tight, just enough to sting, and pushed my head down as he guided me into the back of the patrol car. The interior smelled of floor wax and stale air. As he slammed the door, the outside world became a silent, flickering movie of red and blue. I leaned my head against the hard plastic partition, watching through the reinforced glass as he went back to my car, his flashlight dancing over the interior like a vulture picking at a carcass. I was 26 years old, and for the first time in my life I couldn't see a single inch of the road ahead. The ride to the station was a blur of streetlights and silence, the partition between me and the officer feeling like a mile-thick wall of judgment. When the car finally pulled into the secured garage, the heavy iron gate rumbled shut behind us, a mechanical exclamation point on the end of my life as a free woman. "Watch your head," the officer muttered, his grip on my upper arm firm as he guided me through a heavy steel door that smelled of industrial floor cleaner and desperation. Inside, the processing center was a hive of fluorescent lights and the relentless clacking of keyboards. There was no grace here, only the cold efficiency of the system. I was led to a counter where a deputy didn't even look up at me. I was just a case number waiting to happen. "Empty your pockets." "Everything on the counter," the deputy ordered, his voice flat and bored. One by one, the artifacts of my existence were stripped away. My wallet, my keys, a crumpled receipt from a coffee shop I'd visited only hours ago when I thought I still had a future. Finally, I was led to the fingerprint scanner. As the deputy pressed my fingers onto the glass, the black ink on the screen looked like small, dark maps of a journey I never wanted to take. Face the camera, no smiling. The flash of the mugshot was the final blow. It wasn't just a photo, it was a permanent record of the ruins. The heavy iron door of the holding cell groaned open, and a firm shove from the deputy sent me stumbling into the room. The air inside was thick, smelling of sour sweat and industrial bleach, and the only light came from a flickering bulb encased in a wire cage overhead. "Find a spot, try not to make trouble," the deputy grunted before the door slammed shut with a final echoing thud. I stayed by the door, my heart still hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs. In the far corner, perched on a concrete bench that looked as unforgiving as the walls, sat a man whose skin looked like weathered parchment. He didn't look up at first, he just kept his head down, methodically scratching at a faded tattoo on his forearm. First time, his voice was a low rasp like sandpaper on wood. I swallowed hard, the metallic taste of fear still coating my throat. "Is it that obvious?" He finally looked up, his eyes yellowed and tired, holding a gaze that felt like it was looking right through my skin to the ledger I'd tried to hide. "You still got the outside smell on you. Give it a few hours. This place has a way of breathing that right out of you." He patted the cold concrete beside him. "Sit down, Vicky," he said. I didn't move, but I could feel his heavy, yellowed gaze tracking the tremor in my hands. "So," he rasped, the sound echoing off the damp walls, "what's the charge that brought a girl like you to the end of the road? You look more like a student than a convict." I looked down at my shoes, unable to meet his eyes. "Reckless driving," I tried, the lie tasting like ash. He let out a dry, hacking laugh that ended in a cough. "Cops don't toss a girl into a cage and treat him like a bomb for a lead foot, and they sure as hell don't look at a registration with that much hate in their eyes. Try again. What was in the envelope?" The air in the cell felt like it was disappearing. I could still see the translucent paper under the officer's flashlight. The names, the numbers, the proof of every line I'd crossed to keep my head above water. "Embezzlement," I whispered, the word finally catching on my teeth. "And racketeering. I thought I was just balancing books for people who didn't want to be found. I thought I was too smart to get caught in the machinery." The man stopped scratching his arm and leaned back, a grim shadow of a smile touching his face. "Smart is the most dangerous thing you can be in here. Smart is what gets you a longer sentence and a harder bed. You didn't just break a law, you broke a trust. And the system, it doesn't have much mercy for people who use a pen instead of a pipe to steal." I leaned my head back against the cold stone, the inmate's words echoing like a death knell. "You broke a trust." He didn't know the half of it. He didn't know whose trust I'd broken, or the names on that ledger that would ensure I never saw the sun as a free woman again. As the flickering light overhead finally buzzed and died, plunging the cell into a suffocating, ink-black darkness, I realized the inmate was wrong about one thing. I wasn't at the end of the road. The road had dropped off a cliff, and I was still falling.
The road has dropped off a cliff, and Vicky's journey is just beginning. Can she survive a hunt where the lines between partner and enemy are blurred? Find out in the full release of The Grace Between the Scars, available now in ebook on Amazon, with the paperback edition arriving on June 30th. Don't leave the truth waiting in the dark. Be sure and check out the soundtracks to this book as well. Wildfire Grace and Gentle Grace, those are available on social media platforms. Thanks for listening to this chapter preview of The Grace Between the Scars by Misa and Brehm. Be sure and subscribe and click that bell for further updates. See you next time.